This is Mile High.
Do I want to tell the story or do I want to show the message?
You've got a lot of work to do between Mile High.
The time has come where we can know
we have a responsibility, an ethical and moral responsibility.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right, it is not. It is a receiver of thought. Because love is my first technique.
it's now time for the show.
Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. And wherever you are watching or listening to this, make sure you hit subscribe. You never want to miss any Mile High tech. And you also don't want to miss Mile High. Coming up in September, Mile High 13. Don't let the 13 scare you. So excited to be there with you on higher ground. RiseUpToMileHigh.com is where you can get all the details. All right. And September 25th, 28th, it's one of the most beautiful times to travel to Colorado. I cannot recommend enough that when you come, you actually spend an extra day and go up into the mountains. It'll be a great reset for you and your team. Always bring your team. And today I am with Jenn Denham of Aloha. And, they used to formerly Review Wave. So many of our subscribers and attendees use their services. It's one of the best things we've ever done for our practice. She has 20 years of experience in marketing and growth strategy. Jenn Denham has worked in an array of tech companies across multiple industries, in addition to chiropractic, media, healthcare, financial tech, and she's the Chief Growth Officer at Aloha. And I cannot recommend enough really listening to every word she says here today, because she is just full of wisdom for you relative to service and retention, automation. And again, she's helped us so much with our practice. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jenn Denham.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And so now, first of all, I know chiropractic's special for you, and so people didn't realize this. She's not a chiropractor. She served chiropractic in so many ways. How did you end up connected to chiropractic?
It was really my role coming over into what was, as you mentioned, Review Wave and now Aloha. Our founder and CEO, Matt Prados, has probably one of the largest chiropractic families within the industry and really set out to create technology and become a tech founder to serve those chiropractic practices there and help them thrive, especially in the digital age. And he decided to become a tech founder versus chiropractor. Who knows on any given day if he loves that path, but we have loved growing our solutions specifically to the chiropractic industry and really elevating that patient experience. My family specifically has used chiropractic through our entire life cycles as a family, from my husband and I individually and now as a family. And we really can imagine where we would be today without it. So huge passion runs through not only our company, but myself as well, as just supporting these chiropractors and also elevating that patient experience. We know that it's rough out there for a lot of medical patients finding services and getting access to care. And we love that, our mission statement is just making it so much easier for patients and for practices to be able to have that great patient experience.
So excellent. And then how did you also develop knowledge, wisdom, or just a passion for technology?
Yeah, I'm a nerd at heart, right? Like a data nerd and a tech nerd at heart. And even in different industries that I've been in, they've all kind of resembled around that brick and mortar local business, right? So how does that local brick and mortar business grow what has really always been a relationship, but then on steroids now with a lot of the digital elements that we offer, not only at Aloha, but just as a business, right? We have so much more ability to have communications and maintain those relationships with our patients now that our local businesses have websites and text messaging and automated campaigns. And so it's really that support where I started my career in helping small businesses grow in their local community to now becoming just this huge tech nerd who loves automation and AI, which I'm excited to talk about today.
Now, I'll also say this. Now, I'm going to age myself here. I've practiced for enough years so that there was a point where I practiced and we did not have email. Okay. And like people told us we have to get a website. And I was like, well, why would we need a website? So like that's how long I've been in practice. And I also, had the experience of like, oh, there's these things, Google reviews, and you have to get reviews where I had never, so it was like a new thing to have to transition to getting reviews. And then I found, Review Wave at that as it was named at that point, because that was something that was super important for our practice was to get reviews. And Review Wave helped us so much with that. Okay. But then into the next stage of like, oh, we need text messages to, for our practice members and have a very good system for that. And then, realizing that Review Wave at that point, now Aloha was like not just reviews, but actually having a communication system to our practice members and you guys being with us through all that so we can grow through that has been such an incredible gift. And I still speak to people that at this point that, have Google Voice as their text system or something for their office, or a cell phone and things like that without any kind of answering capability that streamlines their office. And I just know that this has all been such an incredible gift, right? So bringing that full circle, because I hope that saying that there's some listeners that have been through that process and don't have that automated and don't have the support yet that realize how important what you're saying is, what you're going to be saying is. But here's the thing: is that I'm sure you've experienced in your time with Aloha seeing practitioners that are in that place that we were, and they're using like some kind of phone system that's incredibly outdated, and then realize that like you have to tell them, oh, you've got to get out of the 1990s.
Yeah. And I think there's two really good points to speak to in what you just said. One, running a local business in your community, a lot of the tried and true, business elements or business strategies have been really the same for decades, right? It's about growing trust, it's about building relationships, it's about maintaining those relationships and providing a great service. And I think what's changed over the years is just how you execute on those strategies, right? So building trust with those reviews, right? The social proof, even from referrals, people are going to look you up to see your reviews. It's building that confidence when they come in. And now instead of that relationship starting when they walk in the door, it starts with your digital footprint. And then maintaining those relationships, right? We usually back, when I was starting, and I'll age myself a little bit here, I remember doing a social media workshop right when I graduated with my master's, and businesses saying, oh, we're never going to need social media. That's just for the kids to communicate. That's not for businesses. And here we are today, right? Running ads and attracting new patients. But I think, again, back to all of those tried and true business strategies have just, they've evolved and they look different, right? And so now we need reactivation campaigns and we need that digital experience that our patients are honestly not wowed by. They're expecting it, right? It's 2025, right? So I think a lot of what you said of how businesses operated maybe 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, all those strategies per se are still very, very true. It's just how we execute on them and how we elevate them to a digital environment is really where we want to empower practices, right? Is to really look at that. And then outside of just the patient experience, it's also your team, right? We're used to having one person that wears 1,000 hats, that does a lot of manual tasks and busy work. And with the gift of technology and AI and automation, we can now unburden our staff with those silly little tasks that have taken up so much of their time because there was never another way to do confirmations other than getting in a couple hours early and calling every patient that day, right? And now we can have that amazing staff that has those great relationships with your patients, and we can have them focus their energy on more revenue generating tasks than maybe the other way we used to operate within our business. So again, for a lot of the practices that you were alluding to that may still be stuck in those old operational tactics of running their business that they've done for the last 10 years, we get a little comfortable in that space. It's not necessarily a revolution of your practice tomorrow. It's, hey, what are some of those things we can evaluate to elevate the experience and really help our team to be able to do things a little more 2025?
Yep, absolutely. Now speaking to you, what you just said, what are some things that like that used to be like that would be a plus, it would be over the top service. It would be like really special if an office did this, like a chiropractic office did the XYZ, it would be like um high level versus, well, that's just really not high level anymore. It's just what people expect.
Yeah, great question. So I would really circle it around the digital footprints prior to a patient coming in, and let's specify to a new patient, right? And then when they leave, because there's so much that happens within the four walls of the practice that you have the direct impact on, right? It's everything that you learn within coaching and Mile High. But before you come in and when you leave is where you can really elevate that experience to what patients expect. So before they come in, it used to be a nice to have to be able to schedule online. Not so much anymore, right? If we think about all the other businesses that we look at there, when I go to a restaurant or a nice restaurant for a date night, I want to make a reservation and I want to look at the menu online, right? It's pretty typical that there isn't any other business out there that we can't, I'm doing a lot of repairs on a home right now, get a quote, schedule an appointment. Those are things that in this digital mobile first world, I want to look at my to-do list and mark those things to done versus filling out a contact form or having to call and leave a voicemail and then you play phone tag back and forth because honestly, you're probably not going to reach me if you call me back, right? So let's start first with just making it super easy for our patients, specifically new patients, to be able to schedule online or at least get as close as possible for that to do to be to done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the next, which still I think a lot of practices think this is a wow, but it is so much more a wow for your staff than it is an expectation of your patients, and that is mobile intake forms. I'm telling you right now, it's 2025. I'm a hair older than a millennial. There, I'll date myself a little bit. I do not own a printer in my office. I don't have a printer. I've had a printer in a long time. If you are sending me forms to fill out and print at home, it's not happening, right?
Right.
And also, if you watch your new patients come in and sit down in a chair with a huge deck of papers to fill out and writing their name 15 times, it's not giving that elevated experience that we want of our patients.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, if you send them an automated text prior to their appointment saying you can fill these out on your phone within 5 minutes, awesome. Because what happens is when I open something up on my phone to fill out, that's editable and easy to use on a mobile device, most of that information pre-populates because my phone knows those quick answers, my email, my phone number, my kids' names, my birthday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is getting done. So I think those are two things on the outside of an appointment confirmation and reminder. Those are the things that used to be a wow, hey, this business is really tech forward, that now it's just mostly expected, right? There's most all local businesses that I interact with are sending me confirmations via text message prior to my appointment. And then when we leave, right, when we walk out of that business, I came into your practice and Dr. Danny, and we had this amazing experience and you sold me on this care plan and the impact you're going to have for my family. And it felt amazing. And then I walk out of the practice and I look down at my phone and I got a text message about what's for dinner and the kiddos got a science project due tomorrow. And all of a sudden, everything we just talked about kind of comes down. And the first priority is what's right in front of me. So what is the ability for a practice to maintain that relationship in between our appointments to keep it strong? And that's really the communication, right? And being able to automate some of those campaigns, any of those things that we're printing out to hand to patients as they're walking out the door. What are those things that we can make it much easier for our patients to be able to read and digest, probably on their phone, as they walk out of that practice or the next day, which is probably even better to get their attention drawn back in. So I think those are some simple, easy ways for a practice to go back in internally during a team meeting and say, hey, it's been a while since we've thought about what I would term our digital footprint or
Mhm.
potential digital points of friction before they come in and when they leave.
Mhm.
Because if we think about it now, you have more experience with a practice's digital footprint before they meet you, right, than we've ever had before. And so, what is subconsciously, how are they coming in to that first appointment?
Um, Right, and I'll tell you, I help guide a couple. I have I help guide and mentor some people in practice directly. Myself and my wife Rochelle, in our lifetime wellness practice program. You know that you've spoken at those, and we had someone that we onboard for mentoring, and they were actually having a team member. You mentioned this, come in 3 hours early to call everybody. Um, or at a time point they were doing that before their team member came in. And it was like no wonder that they were exhausted. But people are doing that, and versus that they know how automated things are in other industries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just having the opportunity to be able to go back and remove your doctor hat or your office manager, your CA hat, and put on your new patient hat and just simply sit down with your team and say, hey, we're going to act like we're a brand new patient. Let's
Mhm.
look for us, right? Let's search chiropractor in South Jordan, Utah. Let's
Mhm.
look at what we would believe to be true as our social proof of our reviews. Then let's go and try to book an appointment. And one of the very common statistics that's out there is the 3-click rule. In really any digital space within your website, people, especially on their mobile device, they'll give you about 3 clicks to get to where they want to go before they hop, right? So is
Mhm.
it easy for me to land on your website and within about 3 clicks get to where I want to go? Most importantly, booking that appointment or getting as close as possible to booking that appointment as I can.
Right.
So it's really allowing yourself to think outside of the box as your new patient and go through your own digital experience and write down those points of friction. If you, as a new patient, how far would you go before you just X out and go to the next practice?
Right, right. In every aspect of what it is. I mean, I do that with restaurants and shopping because people's attention span is so small. So you have such a short period of time. It's not the 1980s. You have such a short period of time to capture them. And if you don't have the right tools, in your practice, you're going to be losing. It has nothing to do, sadly, with what you're doing philosophically or what you're doing in terms of adjusting. They're just not going to be able to, they're not going to find what you're doing. So, and that's, it's sad to, for people that I know are great chiropractors now, but also is obviously a huge opportunity to have people find, the chiropractors that have those values if we get on board with up leveling. So, what are some key strategies that Aloha helps people with?
I think the biggest thing we really, pride ourselves on is just a consultative approach. We
Okay.
really want to know your goals. And I think that's why we're so aligned, with the way that you guys coach your practices, right? What is specific? Let's define what your goal is, for your practice. Is it buying another practice and bringing another, associate? What does this look like for you? And then how can we align the technology and solutions we have to help you get closer to that goal, right? And if it's new patient acquisition, great. Let's make it easy for those new patients to find you, confirm, book, and feel confident as they walk in the door. Now, we've talked to practices all the time that say, hey, I've had, my patient base for 20 years. They love being able to call and talk to Susan at the front desk. They love all of these elements of how we've done business for the last, 10, 20 years. And that's great. But the new patients, if we're looking at acquiring new patients, we got to think outside the box, right? We're going to run into a bandwidth issue if Susan at the front desk or Bill at the front desk has to talk to every single prospective new patient, right? It's not scalable. So we really want to, again, have a consultative approach when we talk with our team and say, here's my goals. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's the patient volume I want to hit. Here's the reactivation retention goal I'm looking at. Here's how I want to empower my team, right? If you are big on growth levers for your teammates, looking at their value to your practice and helping them become a better CA, a better office manager by utilizing technology is helping them in their career, right? And I know serving is a huge part of what you guys talk about. And I think there's a huge opportunity. Our CEO, Matt, does it a ton with us, right? We practice what we preach. He is constantly making us level up with our output of technology and identifying bottlenecks within our workflow that we can use automation and technology for, so we can be more present with our partners, with our customers, right? It's not removing the relationship, it's actually allowing us to have more time. So I think that's another really great thing that we really focus on, is one, aligning with those goals, and then also making sure that not only your patients but your staff feel like they're growing by using our services and solutions.
Excellent, excellent. And I want to ask you more but before I ask you more, if people are listening at this point are like, wow, I need to, get my practice into the modern age. How do they get in touch with Aloha before I ask you the next set of questions?
Yeah, we're really easy to get a hold of. So we practice what we preach at getaloha.com. You can easily book a demo with one of our team members. We have 2 locations, one in Irvine, California, and one in McKinney, Texas. Our team are in office. Our chat icons for our current customer, that if you're in the Aloha platform, that chat bubble is a real human in one of those offices ready to serve your practice, which I feel like is a big differentiator for us. Our service is not outsourced. It's a huge thing that our CEO is really built as we've scaled, is to make sure that our customer support is there to help practices. So it's really easy to get a hold of us. As a current customer, you can use that chat icon to talk to a real person if there's more solutions or you want to dive more into automation and AI. And for practices that are looking at leveling up their practice, then you can go to getaloha.com and book a demo with one of our team members that has been in the industry. All 3 of our account executives have been serving chiropractic practices for really over 6 or 7 years now. So we completely understand the flow of a practice, the goals, and just by asking a few consultative questions of your goals, your current flow, your current tech stack, we're really able to help you set on a path of, here's what we want to do first, second, and third, and then get you off to the races. And a lot of times those things happen within 24 to 48 hours, right? We're on a call, sounds great, get you with our launch team, and we're off to the races.
Excellent, excellent. So let's talk about some of those touch points and some of the things that Aloha helps with. Now, let's start with reviews. How do people get help with reviews, and why is that important?
It's really important, right? If we think about businesses 20, 30 years ago, it was you ask your neighbor, you ask a friend, it's referrals, you're going to, community events, you're sponsoring the local T-ball, and you put yourself out there as a business because ultimately what you're trying to do is grow, know, like, and trust. They need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. And it's the element of social proof. Who else in my local community is using this business, and what do they say about this business before I go in? And like I said earlier, people are going to look at those reviews even if a family member or close friend has recommended them, right? So it's really so much more than chasing those 5 stars. It's really being able to build robust, consistent, and live reviews of those local community members talking about their experiences across all the services that you offer. Now, the antiquated way of doing it, or what we did before, is by asking for a review, by maybe having a QR code in the office, which is still impactful. But again, we are very busy and our attention span, unfortunately, is less than a goldfish at this point. So unless you text it to my phone, make it an easy link for me to be able to fill out really within about 30 to 45 seconds, then it most likely isn't getting done. So we started in that area because our founder knew that social proof and more reviews were one of the fastest way for a chiropractic practice to be able to grow, right? New patient volume. So what we want you to do is look at in your local community, if you search yourself, right, chiropractor in, and then into your city here, as an audit practice, go and do this and look and say, where do I rank out of social proof? And then if you want to get a gold star, dive into what those reviews say. There is so much information hidden in between the lines of what our patients are saying.
Right.
You could have offered a new service that they're talking about, or maybe parking is very difficult to find and they didn't know that, and then they were late for their adjustment, right? So there's a lot of things that we can learn as a practice by reading in between the lines and doing an audit of, our last 20 reviews. But it shouldn't be a manual process. It should be something that your team knows is happening on the back end. And if a review comes in that needs a little bit of triage, that it doesn't immediately post to those platforms and gives you the opportunity to respond and make it right. And then the ones that are 4 and 5 stars go to those platforms that we really need to build up for that social proof.
Okay, and that being automated, I cannot tell you. I mean, my MO of when I mentor docs, I tell them, look, one of your top priorities is you have double your reviews of anybody else in your area. Like you want that to happen. If you are going to an Italian restaurant and you're not in the town, you're like type in Italian restaurant, the one that has double the reviews you're going to go to. And even if you get someone refers you to a particular restaurant, you're going to look at the reviews before you take the word of your friend who said, "Oh, this is the place to go." That's the world today. Better or worse, like it or not, that's the situation. And it's going to be the same thing for the dentist, and it's going to be the same thing for your office. So, next touch point that you've helped, and I mean, I can't emphasize enough what I just said. Having texting services. That's something you help tremendously, and why is having less friction in that area important?
I think if you're listening to this podcast right now and a phone number called you that isn't a kiddo or an immediate family member that you want to talk to, what is the likelihood that you're answering that call, right? It's pretty low, right? And
Right.
especially if you don't have that number saved. There's even a setting, I'll admit it, that I have on my phone that if I don't know the number, it's not saved in my contacts, it goes directly to voicemail,
Right.
right? So if we think about the way that businesses have typically run, we want to be able to communicate with our patients, and just calling them was the easiest way to get that done. But with the amount of spam calls and the busy lives we lead, and honestly, sometimes the waste of time a call can take, text message and the ability to be able to automate those text messages for reminders, mobile intake forms, documents you want to send to them after their adjustment specific to the care plan they're in and their kiddos, and reminders in between adjustments. All of those things going to what we hold in our hand more than we should is just so much more impactful. Right. I mean,
Right.
you look around any environment you're in, from the airport to the restaurant to people driving in their cars, which is scary. People have their phone in their hands, right?
Right.
So if your ultimate goal is constructive and impactful communication with your patients to make them feel connected to you, then why not put that in the device that is constantly in their hand?
Mhm. Right, right. And so then the next thing, which is probably your newest, most exciting thing that people don't know about, and I'm a big proponent of this, is that you have your phone answered at all times. You need to have your phone answered in some way at all times. And the old school thing, and you're probably familiar with this, people told their CAs, they got a phone for their CA and told them to answer on the lunch break and answer on the weekends. I mean, I remember being at seminars being told that that's what you do. I'm sure the CAs love that. Okay. But you have a new feature that people can have with Aloha to have your phone answered at all times. It doesn't make your staff have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll really say that our, founder and CEO has always stayed cutting edge of technology and always looking for opportunities as, AI and automation and integrations have really empowered our software to go further and further into impacting a practice. And, just like we talked about scheduling and communication and automation with mobile intake forms, but the phones were never something that we really touched. And we kept hearing from practices, man, another thing that happens is I come in and I've got 20 voicemails to get back to. And now when we're looking at those 20 voicemails, we're also thinking about 20 games of phone tag, because more than likely you're going to call that person back and it's going to go to voicemail again, right? And it's really not serving our practice or our patients. So we created Charlie AI, built it from the ground up, which we're very, very excited to launch in the chiropractic industry. It's already live and thriving in practices nationwide, which we're excited about. Charlie will answer the phones nights and weekends by a simple automation of forwarding during your busy hours. And Charlie will say hello and welcome your new patients, asking if they're new or existing. And because of our integrations, can easily get those appointments scheduled or rescheduled and also answer FAQs about the practice. Now we make it super easy and seamless because now this appointment could go straight into your EHR system and then kick off those confirmation reminders. So when your staff come back in from a busy weekend or a busy lunch hour, a lot of our patients have already scheduled online and we don't have to get into that game of phone tag. So we're really excited for Charlie to come into chiropractic and really help, again, remove one of those bottlenecks for both your patients and your staff. I know there's a lot of conversations around AI right now, and business owners can feel very overwhelmed and maybe hesitant of how they start bringing that into their practice. We know that AI is going to be very, very impactful in the coming years, but one of the bottlenecks or points of friction is staff adoption. All right, do I need to have a workshop to teach my staff members how to do prompting with AI, or we have to do a full training, or this seems very overwhelming to us and we're not sure where to start? A simple solution like Charlie to simply forward your calls nights and weekends is a simple, easy way to start, right? Hey, our practice is empowered by AI because we avoid things going to voicemail. So I think if you're looking to grow your practice and to bring in new technology, you're already using the Aloha stack of solutions to remove those bottlenecks. Charlie is just the most natural step next to be able to also empower it with AI.
So I want to ask you something because how long you've been involved with Aloha, formerly Review Wave?
Just about 2 years, which is
Okay.
exciting.
So now with that, you've probably seen some pretty, like we're talking about these technology upgrades, things that will make it more effortless in your practice. And my hunch is you've probably seen some things of people being very grateful or have like miracle shifts or their volume increase or their finances go up. Is there anything along those lines that like really made you feel proud of what your connection is to this that just, made you very excited about it?
Yeah, I think personally for myself, and I know a lot of my team members would share the same sentiment, is, what we had talked about in the beginning, and that's improving that experience for patients and their access to care to have these great experiences with their doctor in a more modern way, right? So I think if we can revolutionize the way that patients can connect and interact with their providers, I think we make a huge impact on the industry and on the general population as well. So that's our North Star that we always want to focus on. And I think for me personally, knowing that I mean, I talk a lot to these doctors. I come to the conferences and speak on panels. And when they come up to me, I mean, you could just go to our website and scroll down. I mean, there's dozens of videos from, you know, docs saying this has been a game changer for us. We've been able to use our CA for so many more revenue generating activities than what they were doing before. We love when office staff come up to us at the booth. A lot of the testimonials you'll see on our website are our current customers coming up to us at events saying, we love ReviewWave, we love Aloha, we love what you guys have been able to do for us. And I think that's what really sits with us is knowing that our customers are seeking us out at the event, maybe for our Aloha bars and our tchotchkes at the booth, but also to come and tell us, I got a little gray there, but also to tell us just how much they've loved the technology. I would say a huge part of our growth has been our current customers, like you guys and our consultants saying, hey, you guys, you really have to look at some automation. You really need to look at technology that was built for chiropractors by someone from a chiropractic family to really be able to serve your practice. And I think that's our North Star, and it makes us feel really great about what we're doing.
I cannot tell you how often when I work with someone as a mentor or guide or in our coaching programs, and like that's one of the first things we tell them. Because when I hear the nightmares, I'm like, you can't have your cell phone that you're forwarding to and things like that that people are still doing, or they say, oh no, I don't even know what is a review or something like that. Or they're still having their CA answer the phone, or they don't have forms online, and I'm just like, I know you want to know a magic script to run your office, that somehow you think is going to convert more people, but you've got to do this first because you're not getting new patients and you're not taking care of people correctly, and people don't see you because of all these tools that you can have that you're efforting through versus they could be effortless. So I have to say, and by the way, on this, that was a very odd thing. People who listen this far, you probably heard the phone ringing. That was a perfect example. I had a spam call that went through to my computer for some reason. I don't know why it happened, but this is what your clients and practice members are dealing with, and then what your staff is dealing with, and then if it's automated, then you can deal with that. So because they're getting spam calls at the front desk, and then they're trying to respond to those, which is sad and crazy, but that's the state of the world, and they're getting those and they're dealing with them when they come back at lunch versus that it could have been an AI that was answering it like you guys have set up, you know.
Yeah, and I think the big takeaways that we are so aligned on is that the way that you run your business doesn't need to change overnight.
Right,
But if you go in and you look at those points of friction and those bottlenecks for your staff, the ability to replace those with automation and technology is extremely simple, right?
right,
It's very easy to implement. And I think that's where the ability for if you're listening to this right now, to go to your next team meeting and say, hey, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna act like a new patient. We're gonna write down every time we run into a point of friction, and we're going to say, how can we make this better? Right. And
right,
we're going to look towards technology for that. We're not going to look for, oh, we got to hire another person. We know that the workforce out there, it's hard to hire, train, and retain really top talent. So if you look at your amazing staff members you already have, let's empower them to become the next version of themselves using technology and AI. And you would be shocked how much
right.
more they can do for your practice.
Absolutely. And again, I would say if you're going to be a Mile High, which you should be, I don't know where else you want to be in September. Being in Colorado the weekend of the 25th, drive get 10 Mile High, get reset in your practice, and then go up into the mountains because the leaves change at that point, and it's amazing. So I'll also tell you, Jen, like don't fly in and out for the program. Like stay an extra day before or after. It is spectacular that particular week. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. You deserve a little bit of that, but and then visit the Aloha booth, okay? Not for the bars. I mean, she may have some sitting out at the table, but to talk to her and pick her brain about your practice and how you have those things set up and how you can make it easier, serve your practice members better and have more new patients and ultimately more revenue because there's more automation.
Yeah, I love that. And, one of the things that we always can identify just really driven practice owners is when they come to the booth and they have intention and they share
Mhm.
their goals, right? This is something you should do across any technology that you're vetting. Here's my goal, right? Here's what I want to do in the next 6 months, 12 months, whatever it may be. How can you help me get there? And we love when those intentional docs come up to the booth because our team, if not, we'll start the conversation that way. What is your goal? What are you trying to do in the next 6 to 12 months? And then what is your current technology stack, right? So
Yeah,
we can't wait to see you at Mile High. Come to the booth. I will be there. My first question for you, if you don't start it, is what is your goal? How do you want to grow? Tell me what those bottlenecks are so we can dig in and really have that consultative approach of helping you hit that goal by removing some of the bottlenecks and points of friction that may be in between you and that next step of growth.
excellent. And go to getaloha.com to learn more about them. And again, to get the 411, and this is an example. I bet you people don't know what 411 is, right? Anymore. But to get the 401 on Mile High, rise up to milehigh.com and reserve your seats. And we look forward to seeing you on higher ground in September. Thank you again for taking the time to be with us, Jen. We look forward to seeing you at Mile High as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Keep changing spines and lives and minds with chiropractic. Keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic.